Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to a series I like to call the MBM interview. And this is about interviewing any of our clients who have stepped into Mentored by Maya and experienced a transformation that isn't just physical, but it can be on the mental approaches towards food, training, making a lifestyle change, adapting things like cultural dishes, and learning more about themselves in the journey. And today, we have one of our lovely, lovely MBM clients, Renee. Say hello, Renee. Introduce yourself.
Hey, I am Renee, and I have just finished my coaching with Mentors by Maya.
Lovely. And where are you from? Where are you based?
I'm based just outside of London, in Maidenhead, but I am originally from the Caribbean.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much, Renee, for, even accepting doing this interview as well. Because the truth is, I remember you started off a little bit earlier when we did our 8 week challenge and you come in, you transitioned. And today I kind of want to understand as much about you and your experiences and how that's been. So I think the first question to ask is, everyone comes in at a certain stage of maybe their fitness or lifestyle journey. But what were your biggest maybe beliefs about fitness, nutrition, or lifestyle change? Did you have any fears before you obviously got into that side of coaching?
Yeah, so I think my biggest fear was probably the free weight section. Um, it's just inundated with men and like no hate, obviously. Like love that, but it can be quite intimidating. And I just was really afraid to kind of move away from the machines, especially like the cardio side of things, because I felt like I didn't have the knowledge and I felt like, people would look at me and laugh at me for not knowing how to do things. And so like that was a really big fear for me. And I just was afraid that I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't be able to reach my goals. I felt like, if I tried and failed, that would really knock me back. That, and I felt like I didn't want to try because I was scared of that failure. I was also scared because, well, not really scared, but I think one of the beliefs that I had would be that I couldn't eat the things that I like to eat and still like reach my goals and lose weight. I would say the last fear that I kind of want to touch on is like the coaching fear because I felt like, I was really afraid because personal trainers and coaches can be quite expensive. And honestly, like I was scared that it was all a scam. And that was like, to be completely honest with you, yeah, like I genuinely was like, I'm about to be scammed. But, like I think you just have to kind of take that leap of faith and like invest in yourself.
Yeah. And you know what? You've hit the nail on the head there. I think because it is such a saturated industry and you see so much, it's hard to know is what they're actually saying the truth? So yeah, that is the Caribbean in you, I think. The same with the same here. We have to be a bit skeptical sometimes. Okay, lovely. So I know you mentioned a couple of things about having gym anxiety and also, knowing how to approach foods. So, when you were looking outside into the fitness industry, did anything make you feel maybe disconnected or overwhelmed? Because I know you mentioned the gym here, but if you look at content and stuff, was there anything sort of that you thought, I don't know really how to approach that?
I think there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially now where everything's just so easily accessible and it can be quite overwhelming and really actually quite terrifying because you don't necessarily know what's reality, what's not, and like can what is actually true and what's not. And I think like around the time I was starting to get into wanting to learn more and wanting to kind of take that step to start the journey myself, I was consuming a lot of kind of content that it probably wasn't necessarily the best thing for me to be consuming. And I think like there's a lot of people, especially when it comes to food, talking about nutrition in the ways that like I now know it's not necessarily the case, but at the time, like I thought that I would have to kind of like change everything and do everything a specific way. And I just realized that there was a lack of women kind of in the industry. And I was really struggling to understand like my body and like for me, like what things would be like. And I feel like that was something that I really, really struggled with because obviously, like I feel like, again, I'm not trying to hate on men or anything, but I feel like what I really needed was somebody who looks like me to kind of
Mhm.
show me the way. And for someone who knows what I'm going through, who has also been through the same kind of thing, who maybe even eats the same sort of foods and can kind of like understand like what I'm going through. And to be honest, like I also feel like a lot of people online are sharing things that like for me oftentimes would make me feel quite not necessarily ashamed, but I think just like really overthinking, like feel quite like self-conscious about myself. Everyone kind of looks a certain way. And to be honest, like I just felt like I wasn't cut out to be someone who enjoyed fitness or was a part of the kind of community, I guess. And yeah, I feel like I thought that people needed to look a certain way, needed to be a certain way, come from a certain background and be a certain way in order to like kind of be on that journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like when you step online now, there's a certain aesthetic, like you've probably seen, like if you want to do Pilates, you need to kind of look this way. If you want to lift weights, you need to kind of look that way. If you want to be in the best shape, you need to eat this way, and it can feel so kind of far from where we are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think one thing, everyone has that moment as well. So, what was the moment maybe when you realized you needed help beyond doing it on your own?
I realized that I needed help when I started going to the gym and starting to like try to lose weight. I used to be someone who was really like quite fit, really um like athletic. I would say I was really active and I was a competitive swimmer for a while and I stopped swimming. Well, I stopped swimming probably towards the end of like my school years, but I started again a bit when I was at uni.
Yeah.
And when I left uni, I was still kind of active because I was walking a lot, but I had started my first desk job and I didn't see it and I didn't realize it, but I was slowly becoming less active. And as a result, I was slowly putting on more weight. I was becoming depressed and like eating more. And like, I think that in hindsight, kind of looking back, my relationship with food slowly changed as I kind of started to, I guess, become more sad about things. I felt like things were just, yeah, different. And I guess I wasn't really moving. And that part of that, like, didn't help my situation either. And so I started going to the gym in, I would say, what year in? So the end of mid to end of 2024. Actually, no, tell a lie. The beginning of 2024. So actually, I think we've been speaking since maybe the year before that. Wow.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think we started speaking August 23. I was um, proposed to at the end of 2023. And so I really wanted to kind of improve my activeness and look a certain way for the wedding. And I feel like it sounds bad. I feel like it sounds bad when I say it because of what I know now. But at the time, that's genuinely like, that was where I was looking. And I just felt like I wanted to look a certain way. This is what I wanted. And I think over time, obviously, like my reasoning has changed, which we'll probably speak about a bit later. But I when I did start going to the gym, I started eating differently, and I didn't really see the changes that I wanted to see as quickly as I wanted to see them. And I didn't really know what I was doing wrong. I needed accountability, and like I needed help. And I really can't put my finger on it, but I just needed someone to like show me what I was doing wrong, tell me what I'm doing wrong, where do I go, how do I do this, like what am I missing, what am I lacking. And I just felt like I was a bit alone, to be honest. I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I had someone there to support me. And so, yeah, I think that was the moment where I was like, I really need help. Like, I really need someone to show me how to do this and what to do. And, like, I think as a result, I learned so much more than what I thought that I would learn. Like, it was never just about like going to the gym, and it was never just about what I'm eating. It was honestly for me like so much more than that. And I didn't realize how much my lifestyle and the things around me and my mindset and my environment played a part in my fitness journey, but it
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, it's so interesting you said that because, there was something that was like a catalyst to change at a time. And then as time goes on, and we spoke a little bit about this, didn't we? Your goals kind of change. But now you see, okay, I've got not just this that I want to see, not just like a physique result, but how things make me feel, how, you've transitioned from, being a swimmer and then going into office work and how that shifts your lifestyle and how you can adapt to it. That is stunning. So you've achieved so much, Renee, since starting. And I did want to get into that. And I think the best thing to ask you really is what is the biggest change that you've maybe seen over these past couple months in yourself then?
I would say that the biggest change that I've seen in myself would be the mindset, because when I first started, even when I first started Femtor, my mindset was genuinely in the gutter. Like, I wasn't being very nice to myself. I would consistently, and like, I cannot stress this enough, like I don't think anything I say will match the magnitude of how bad it was, but I was genuinely like being my own bully and being nasty to myself all the time, like just thinking really negative things. And I think just in general my mindset was really, really negative. And to be honest, like I feel like over time and with what I've learned, I actually realized how big a part that played in my fitness journey, and it actually stunted me from
Hmm.
making progress. And it's crazy because, like, actually, speaking to you now is the first time I'm actually thinking, actually, yeah, it did. Like, it actually stopped me from making progress. Like, as I remember, there was one time when I said to Ketsia, my coach, I feel like I've fallen off. I've fallen off. It wasn't even that long ago. And she said, if you think you've fallen off, then you don't know what falling off is. And I realized that actually, like, it's all about mindset, because failing for one person could be completely different to what failing is for me and my mindset. And I feel like I would kind of, and I feel like it's so easy to say, like sometimes I'm still guilty of doing it, but I'm more aware of it. And I think that's probably the main thing, is just like I can be harsher to myself and I can say things to myself that I would never say to anybody else. I would never I would never even point something out or think something about somebody else that I'm thinking about myself. And
Yeah.
it's as if I have higher standards for myself than I would for anyone. And I think I really had to come to the realization of why that is and kind of work through that. And also, I guess another change would be just my attitude to fitness in general. Like, I feel like I didn't I wouldn't say I didn't want to go to the gym and I didn't want to work out, but I didn't really find enjoyment in it. And I think like I've kind of unlocked something in myself where I actually like do enjoy going to the gym. Like I I obviously do work out for necessity, but I also like it's not something that I'm dreading all the time and I'm like, oh my God, I have to go to the gym now. So
I love what you just said then as well about like we can sometimes have such like a high standard for ourselves, which is fab. Like we want to have that. But I think what it is sometimes is that compassion. It's also having that intertwined into it that, we're all human. There is certain times that maybe one week may not look like the other week, but it's how we continue to sort of move forward with that. And honestly, Renee, like even seeing your results, when we're seeing people inside the space, you can see how things get better once they approach things like compassion because they're able to, one, look at the progress better, look at things in hindsight. And I just think it's beautiful that, like, even if you call it higher standards, it is compassion that you've learned,
yeah.
basically, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think like on kind of on that, I would never celebrate small wins. And obviously like part of MBM is celebrating your wins and kind of like looking at them every single week. And that was really hard for me.
Hmm.
Um I used to literally like there were times when I would just write I don't have any wins. And that wouldn't necessarily be true, but that's what I'm writing because like I'm like I don't know what I've done that's worth like writing this down that's worth even being a win. Would you call that a win? I wouldn't call it a win. And like we spoke about it a lot during my coaching journey and I feel like I just didn't want to like celebrate myself and I was so harsh. And then actually like another thing that I thought of was discipline. I couldn't like say no to people and stuff. You know, when you're at work and you're in the office and then people bring sweets in and stuff like that. Like, even if I didn't want it, sometimes I'd be like, yeah, like, you know, and I'd give in, especially to peer pressure and stuff like that. And that's something that's stopped completely. And that's something actually that I'm really proud of as well. And just in general, like my relationship with food is much healthier. And I would say that that has changed for sure. Like it's something that, yeah, is something that I would say is like a difference
Yeah.
from when I started.
I love that. Well, I know you've mentioned like these are the things that you've learned, and everyone wants to learn new ways to have like a better approach to foods, a relationship with food, more compassion for themselves. But was there anything that was super hard to unlearn in this process, or anything that you had to kind of drop as a belief when you were going through these changes, Renee?
Yeah, I think one of the things is portion sizes. I think as a Caribbean woman, it's yeah, like 100 grams of rice is not for me. And that's the first thing. Yeah, so that's one big thing that I've kind of had to unlearn. Um, Another thing is that, and it kind of ties into what I was saying before, dieting and weight loss in general is not linear. Like, I just felt like everything had to be up, 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 up. And like, I think there were a few weeks at one point where it was just, oh my God, this is great. Oh my God, this is better. Oh my God, this is even better. And then one week I was like not doing so well, or I felt like I wasn't doing so well. And I felt like everything is going wrong. My world is shattered. Like, it was all so dramatic, but it's actually not linear. And especially as a woman, like, it's so interesting because I never knew that before. And I just
Hmm.
thought that everything would just be up and up and up, but it's not like that. And that is also okay. Like, not every week is going to be perfect, like over the past few months, I've gone through a lot. I've gone through deaths in my family and things like that. And just experiencing that, it's like, actually, it's okay to have like one bad day or one bad week, but like, you can just kind of like pick yourself back up and like carry on. Scales on everything.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a big one for me because I felt like I can get obsessed sometimes, and then there were weeks where I wouldn't. weigh myself because I knew that if I did, I could end up potentially like hurting my own feelings basically and starting spiraling and just like losing my mind. But actually, scales aren't everything. And like when I realized that, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, um, your body weight can fluctuate up to 1 kg or 2 kgs within one day.
Yes.
When I found that out, and I just was like, listen, I need to stop putting so much on these scales because they don't actually matter. Like they do, obviously, to a point, but it's not the be all and end all. And obviously, like as women, like when we are going through our cycles or things like that, it's obviously going to fluctuate. And that was a big learning curve for me because sometimes I'd be like, crying and then on my period and then I'm like, oh, but now I'm like fat. And then obviously that's not even true. But that's how I felt. And then like I'll be like, yeah, but I'm on my period. So I need to give myself grace. And yeah, so but I didn't know that before. And I didn't really know anything about like why we bloat and things like that. Like I really had to unlearn that and like not maybe not even look at the scales when I'm on my period, for example. One of the things that I mentioned earlier was that mindset is really important in the journey and that it has a lot to do with it. And I would also say that I had to unlearn thinking that it happened really quickly, that it
Yeah.
happened overnight. Because when I was on Femtor, I felt like I was reaching my goal slowly, but every week it was improving a little bit. And then obviously that's 8 weeks. It's not really that long. So when I started coaching, I thought that it would be maybe even like faster. And by the I don't know, maybe by the third week, I'd be like at my goal, that's it, it's going to be fine. And it doesn't really happen like that. And I feel like it's really difficult, especially to put a time frame on it
Yeah.
because it's different for everyone. And also, I know that we kind of spoke about it earlier, like how my goals have changed, but I thought that my goal was the weight, but actually it wasn't the weight, it was more the physique. I think like it was the physique at the beginning, that was my goal, but over time when I was kind of, dipping and like fluctuating in how I was feeling about my fitness journey, I was thinking that it was more about the scales. And
Yeah.
I had to like come to the realization that actually it wasn't about that. That wasn't even my goal in the beginning.
Yeah.
And that I'd actually reached my original goal. And I kind of forgot that and I lost sight of it along the way. It was a realization that I had to come to very quickly because I was spiraling and I was like, I'm never going to be able to do this. Like, it wasn't even, I wouldn't say it wasn't a realistic goal, but the scale side of things wasn't like I wasn't even that far off,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. But I was putting everything on that. That's the goal, where it wasn't my goal in the beginning. That wasn't what I had written down when I started.
Yeah. No, of course. And like you've mentioned, it's just not even linear, is it? Like even how you go through that process, like I think as women, what we like to do is go, I will be happy when I get here, not knowing what here even looks like. And
Yeah.
then maybe we get close to it, or maybe we succeed it, or maybe we go the other way and we're actually happy and we're like, like I wonder why I wanted that so much. And I think this is even like drawing back to what you said, the purpose of small wins. Like we know when a period comes, something's going to change. Yeah. Either our mood, our body, our hunger. We're not in our normal regulated pattern. And if the only thing that you're looking at is what the scales are saying, of course, this journey is going to feel very bleak, very bland, very unmotivating. So looking inwards at all these other things that you've mentioned, that is one thing that I think it takes women years to unlearn. Years to unlearn. It's amazing over this time frame, like the past 6 months, you've managed to learn that so quickly, Renee. I love that. I love that. So from this journey then, I know obviously we spoke about the results that you've been given. You mentioned a little bit more about realizing your activity levels are up and you're feeling fitter. What is the next focus for you then, would you say?
I would say kind of maintenance, just not kind of stopping here, keeping on going. There's a couple of things that I wanted to improve. So, like, one of the big things for me was cardio, and just like, I think for me, I'm kind of a type A person. So, I like to have a schedule, and like when I don't, I think that sometimes I can kind of like go somewhere else, like doing whatever I want to do, and it gets a bit crazy. I think, yeah, for me, my next focus is definitely like putting cardio first, and just continuing with nutrition and just maintaining where I'm at, basically.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. And I think what's lovely about that as well is that your journey, like even though you did the 6 months, it started before as well. So you've even done like 8 months, 9 months of focus and knowing that you can beautifully sit in that maintenance and maintain all those habits, that is exactly where I feel like every woman should be focused on getting to. So, if someone is listening to your story right now, Renee, then, and she's maybe feeling scared, overwhelmed, or feels that she's gonna fail or has some of the feelings towards scale weight or, not having compassion towards herself, like you've mentioned, what would you say to her?
I would say to her, you can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. Going, don't give up. As I said, I thought I was falling off before, and my coach told me, Renee, you don't know what falling off is if you think this is falling off. Um, and I just think that it's so different for everyone, and you'll never fall so far that you aren't able to get up again.
Yeah,
So, like, why not keep trying? Like, what's the worst that can happen? I think I started this journey because I wanted to invest in myself and invest in my health, and that was at the time the most important thing to me. And to be honest, like it still is important to me because I felt like I wasn't really looking after myself before. And it is 100% worth the investment because you can't really do anything without your health.
yeah,
And I think that, like, yeah, like you're important. And so if if that is something that you want to focus on or you want to work on, do it healthily, but just take the leap and, yeah, just invest in yourself.
love that. You can't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs. I'm gonna get that on t-shirts, by the way. I love that. I've never heard that phrase before. I do love that. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Renee. Honestly, I think the one thing about your story is every woman can probably feel the way you felt and being in your shoes when it comes to things like wanting certain goals, transitioning through changes, having things going on in your life and thinking that, you're always back to square one. But where you are now, and for anyone watching, Renee's commitment to communicating things and trying her best and turning up and learning more. Like you're like a sponge for education, which I absolutely adore. This is why she can sustain such great results, and she knows now that leading into 2026, she's in a solid position. So thank you so much, Renee. Is there anything else that you want to leave off?
No, I don't think so, but thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I just feel really reflective right now.
I love that. We love a reflection. We do the journal prompts. We're doing a check-in basically. That's what we're doing. We're doing a nice check-in.
Amazing.
Amazing. Well, if you liked watching this, please leave a comment, leave a like, and we will be coming with more client stories and MBM interviews soon. See you, Renee. Bye.